The divorce papers landed on David Chen's desk at exactly 3:47 p.m., 17 minutes after he'd shaken hands on the largest defense contract in corporate history, a $50 billion deal that would transform his aerospace startup into an industry titan. His wife Elena stood in his office doorway, her designer heels clicking against the marble floor, her emerald engagement ring, the new one, not his, catching the afternoon light as she announced she was leaving him to marry Marcus, his best friend since college, the man who'd stood beside him at their wedding 7 years ago. David's hands trembled as he read her cold, clinical demands, the ink still wet on documents that would strip him of half of everything he'd built, unaware that everything had just multiplied by a factor she couldn't begin to comprehend. But as Elena turned to leave, smiling at the phone in her hand where Marcus was undoubtedly waiting for confirmation, she didn't notice the sealed manila envelope on David's desk, the one stamped Department of Defense Classified, or the way her soon-to-be ex-husband's grief was slowly transforming into something else entirely. What would Elena do when she discovered the fortune she'd just walked away from? How would Marcus react when he learned the true cost of his betrayal? And what did David have planned that would shock the man who'd stolen his wife? David's office felt suffocatingly small, despite its floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking downtown Seattle. Elena stood there like she owned the place, which technically she was about to, at least half of it. Her black Chanel suit hugged her frame perfectly, the same body he'd held through countless nights, now belonging to someone else. The irony burned like acid in his throat. Just minutes ago, he'd been in the Pentagon's secure conference room, surrounded by generals and defense contractors, signing agreements that would make him one of the wealthiest men in America. His revolutionary satellite defense system had beaten out Lockheed Martin, Boeing, and every other aerospace giant. $50 billion over 7 years. His company, Sky Shield Technologies, would become a household name. Now his wife was leaving him for Marcus Rivera, the man who'd been his roommate at MIT, his groomsman, his confidant, the man who'd borrowed money from David 3 times in the past 2 years to keep his own struggling tech consultancy afloat. The man David had trusted with everything. "Did you even hear what I said?" Elena's voice cut through his thoughts, sharp and impatient. Her dark hair was styled differently, he noticed, more like how Marcus's ex-girlfriend used to wear hers. How long had this been going on? "I heard you," David said quietly, setting down the divorce papers. His wedding ring felt heavy, foreign. "You want a divorce. You're in love with Marcus. You've already retained Gloria Hartman." He paused, recognizing the name. Hartman was infamous, the lawyer who'd taken down half of Seattle's tech elite in divorce proceedings. "I'm not trying to hurt you," Elena said, but her eyes were cold, calculating. She'd always been good at math, at projecting outcomes. She'd been his company's CFO for the first 3 years, back when Sky Shield operated out of a garage with 2 employees and a dream. "We've grown apart. You're married to your work. Marcus actually sees me." David almost laughed. Marcus saw dollar signs. 6 months ago, Marcus had asked probing questions about Sky Shield's contracts, about the Pentagon bid David wasn't supposed to discuss. David had deflected, changed subjects, but Marcus had persisted. Smart, charismatic Marcus, who'd always landed on his feet, who'd always found angles others missed. "When did it start?" David asked, though he already knew. 3 months ago, when Elena started working late, when she began taking calls in other rooms, when the warmth between them turned glacial. "Does it matter?" Elena examined her nails, French manicured, perfect. "I've already moved most of my things to Marcus's place. The lawyers will handle everything else." His phone buzzed. A message from Sarah Kim, his lead attorney. "DoD contracts are sealed. Announcement won't be public for 72 hours per security protocols. Keep this confidential, no exceptions." 72 hours. 3 days before the world knew David Chen had become a defense industry powerhouse. 3 days before the stock options he'd retained became worth billions. 3 days before Elena's divorce filing became the most expensive mistake of her life. "I need you to sign the preliminary agreement," Elena said, sliding another document across his desk. "We'll split everything 50-50. The house, the savings, your company shares." David looked at the paper. His 45% stake in SkyShield Technologies, currently valued at approximately $8 million based on last quarter's venture capital assessment. In 72 hours after the Pentagon announcement, those shares would be worth close to $5 billion. The preliminary agreement would lock in today's valuation. He thought about his parents, immigrants from Taiwan, who'd worked 18-hour days at their restaurant to put him through school. His father's advice echoed, "In chess, the best move is often the one your opponent doesn't see coming." His mother's wisdom, "Patience defeats impulse." "I need time to review this," David said carefully. "We don't have time," Elena snapped. "I want this finalized before—" She stopped, caught herself. "Before what?" David's eyes narrowed. She recovered quickly. "Before it gets messy. Clean breaks are better." But David saw it now, the calculation behind her eyes. Marcus had told her something. Maybe not the full truth, but enough. Enough to know that waiting could be costly. His desk phone rang. Janet, his secretary, apologetic. "Sir, there's a Marcus Rivera here. He says it's important." Elena's face flushed. "I told him to wait in the car." "Send him in," David said. Marcus strode in like he owned the building, all confidence and expensive cologne. His suit was new, David noticed, Armani, several $1,000s. Interesting considering Marcus had pleaded poverty 2 months ago when asking for another loan. His company was supposedly hemorrhaging cash, clients jumping ship. "David." Marcus extended his hand. David stared at it until Marcus withdrew, awkward energy finally cracking his smooth facade. "Look, man, I know this is difficult." "Do you?" David's voice was ice. "We didn't plan this," Marcus said, slipping his arm around Elena's waist with practiced ease. "It just happened. But I want you to know I'll take care of her. Better than—" He stopped, reading the danger in David's expression. "Better than what?" David stood slowly. "Better than I did? The wife you stole, you'll treat better than the friend you betrayed?" "It's not like that," Elena interjected. "Marcus understands me. He has time for me. He doesn't disappear into classified meetings for weeks." Classified meetings. David's jaw clenched. He'd never told Elena they were classified. That was privileged information, security clearance required. But Marcus, with his questions, his casual visits to the office, his accidental glimpses at documents left on desks. Corporate espionage wasn't just about stealing technology. Sometimes it was about timing. "I want you out of my office," David said quietly. "Both of you." "Sign the papers first," Elena demanded. "My lawyer will review them. You'll hear from us in 72 hours. Marcus's eyes flashed with something. Recognition? Fear? "David, be reasonable. Don't drag this out because your pride is hurt." "Get out," David repeated, "before I have security remove you." They left, Elena's heels clicking, Marcus's cologne lingering like a bad memory. David stood at his window watching them emerge onto the street below, watching Marcus open the car door for Elena, watching them drive away in Marcus's new Tesla. New car, new suit, new confidence, money from somewhere. His phone buzzed again, a text from Elena. "Waiting makes this harder for everyone, including you." But she didn't know what waiting meant. Didn't know that every hour increased the value of what she was walking away from. Didn't know that the DoD contract included immediate payment of $15 billion upon signing, money already transferred to SkyShield's accounts. Didn't know that David's lawyers had structured his ownership through trusts and corporations specifically designed to protect assets from marital claims if valuation changed significantly before divorce finalization. His father had taught him chess. Marcus had taught him that even best friends could be vipers. Elena had taught him that love could be transactional. Now David would teach them both about consequences. He picked up his phone, dialed his attorney. "Sarah, move forward with Plan B. I want a forensic accountant going through every transaction Marcus has made in the past 6 months. I want to know where his money is coming from, and I want our own divorce filing ready. We're going to need to move fast once that 72-hour window closes." "Are you sure?" Sarah asked. "This could get ugly." "It already is ugly," David said, looking at the photo on his desk. Him and Elena on their wedding day, Marcus standing beside them, grinning. 3 people who'd believed in forever. Now it's going to get honest. Through the window, Seattle's skyline glittered in the fading sunlight. Somewhere in that city, Elena and Marcus were celebrating, planning their future, counting money they thought was theirs. They had 72 hours of bliss. Then their world would detonate, and David would be there to watch the fallout, to see the shock on Marcus's face when he realized exactly what and who he'd betrayed. The defense contract was just the beginning. What came next would reshape all their lives in ways none of them could anticipate. The manila envelope sat on his desk, still sealed, still classified. Inside were deployment schedules, payment structures, and clauses that would make David untouchable. Outside, in the real world, two people who'd betrayed him were planning their happiness on the foundation of his assumed poverty. 72 hours until reality crashed their party. David smiled, but there was no humor in it, only the cold arithmetic of revenge. In chess, his father had taught him, you sometimes sacrifice pieces to win the game. Elena and Marcus thought they'd captured his queen. They had no idea they were already in checkmate. The next morning, David sat in his childhood home in Beacon Hill, the small rambler his parents had bought 30 years ago with every penny of their savings. His mother, Lynn, poured tea with hands weathered by decades of restaurant work. His father, James, sat across from him at the same Formica table where David had done homework, built science projects, dreamed of stars and satellites. You look terrible, his mother said in Mandarin, her default language when worried. Not sleeping? Elena left me, David said simply. No point in sugarcoating. His parents had never particularly warmed to Elena, though they'd been polite, respectful. His mother had once observed that Elena looked at their restaurant with the same expression rich tourists had when slumming in ethnic neighborhoods, fascination mixed with subtle disdain. His father set down his teacup. For who? Marcus. The silence was heavy. His parents had liked Marcus initially, the brilliant friend who'd helped David through MIT's brutal engineering program. But his mother had cooled toward Marcus after he'd missed David's father's 70th birthday party, claiming work obligations, then posting photos from a ski trip the same weekend. Character reveals itself eventually, his father said. Your mother saw it 2 years ago. I saw ambition without loyalty, his mother clarified. Dangerous combination, like gas without container, explosive. David smiled despite himself. His mother's metaphors were legendarily mixed but always accurate. I need to tell you something. About work. It's going to be public soon, but I wanted you to hear it from me first. He explained the contract, the $50 billion, the way it would transform everything. His mother's expression barely changed. His father nodded slowly, unsurprised. You did it, his father said simply. The dream. David had started Sky Shield 7 years ago with a revolutionary idea, a satellite network that could detect and neutralize hypersonic missiles, the new threat that traditional defense systems couldn't counter. Every major contractor had told him it was impossible, too expensive, too complex. He'd built it anyway, burning through venture capital, sleeping in his office, missing birthdays and anniversaries. Elena had supported him initially when success seemed glamorous and imminent. As years dragged on, as setbacks mounted, her support had curdled into resentment. The timing, his mother said carefully. Elena doesn't know. She filed for divorce yesterday afternoon. The contract was signed yesterday morning. She wants to finalize before the announcement. His father's eyes sharpened. How much before? 72 hours, maybe less if her lawyer pushes hard. His parents exchanged glances, entire conversations happening in the silence between them. 43 years of marriage created its own language. What will you do? His mother asked. David thought about the forensic accountant's preliminary report delivered at 3 a.m. Marcus's failing company had received an anonymous cash infusion of $500,000 6 weeks ago, coincidentally right after David had mentioned, in confidence, that Sky Shield was a finalist for the Pentagon contract. The money had come through a shell corporation in Delaware, virtually untraceable, but the accountant was digging deeper. I'll protect what's mine, David said, legally properly, but completely. And Marcus? His father asked. David remembered college, Marcus helping him through differential equations, the two of them pulling all-nighters, dreaming about the companies they'd build, the world they'd change. He remembered Marcus's best man speech, how he'd choked up talking about friendship and loyalty. He remembered trusting Marcus with his passwords, his business plans, his wife. Marcus will learn that some betrayals cost everything, David said quietly. His mother reached across the table, gripped his hand with surprising strength. We didn't raise you for revenge. We raised you for success. Sometimes the best revenge is living well. I know, Mom. But sometimes living well means making sure betrayers don't profit from their treachery. His father stood, walked to an old filing cabinet. He returned with a faded photograph. Young James and Lin Chen standing in front of their first restaurant, Fresh Start Cafe. Both of them smiling despite exhaustion, despite uncertainty, despite having nothing but each other and a dream. This picture was taken 1 week after my business partner stole our recipes and opened his own restaurant across the street, his father said. He took our menu, our suppliers, our cook. He told investors I was incompetent. He tried to destroy us. David had never heard this story. What happened? We made better food, his father said simply. We worked harder. We treated customers like family. 3 years later, his restaurant closed. Ours thrived. Not because we fought him, but because we focused on what mattered. But this is different, David protested. Marcus didn't just steal business. He stole Elena, and he's trying to steal my company's value through her divorce. Is it different, his mother asked, or is it the same pattern? Someone sees what you built, wants it for themselves, takes it however they can? David considered this. The forensic report had flagged something else. Marcus had recently formed a new company, Aegis Strategic Solutions, with 3 partners, all former Sky Shield employees who'd left mysteriously over the past year. The company's business plan, filed with the state, focused on satellite defense consulting. I think Marcus might have leaked proprietary information, David said slowly, the pieces assembling in his mind. The employees who left, they all had access to classified sections of our proposal. If Marcus has been building a consulting company to service the defense industry, specifically our contracts using our stolen technology, his father nodded. Then you don't need revenge. You need lawyers and investigators. I have both. Then focus on building what's next, his mother said. Let them destroy themselves. They will. Thieves always do. They think they're clever, but they're building on sand. Your foundation is rock. David's phone vibrated. A text from Sarah Kim. Found something. Marcus's company received a consultation offer from Raytheon last week, specifically for satellite defense systems. Timeline suspicious. Another text. Elena's lawyer filed motion for expedited hearing. They want preliminary asset division finalized within 48 hours. 48 hours. They were panicking, which meant they knew something, but not everything. Probably Marcus had heard rumors about the DoD contract, but didn't know the value or the timeline. He was rushing Elena through divorce to lock in current valuations before news broke. I have to go, David said, standing. Thank you for everything, for always being solid ground. His mother hugged him, fierce and brief. His father walked him to the door. Your mother is wise, his father said quietly. But I'll tell you something she won't. Sometimes living well means making sure justice is served. Not revenge, justice. There's a difference. What's the difference? Revenge is about making them hurt. Justice is about making them pay what they owe. You figure out which one you're seeking, and you'll know how to proceed. David drove back to his office through Seattle's morning traffic, his mind churning. Justice versus revenge. Building versus destroying. His parents had modeled the former his entire life, but they'd never been betrayed by the person who'd slept beside them, never been stabbed in the back by the friend they'd called brother. At his office, his team was in emergency mode. The DoD announcement had been moved up. National security concerns, escalating tensions with China, geopolitical complexity. The press conference would be in 36 hours, not 72. Can we delay it? David asked Sarah. Delay a Pentagon announcement? Are you insane? This makes us, every investor, every client, every competitor, will know Sky Shield is now untouchable. Our stock value will quadruple overnight. And the divorce? Elena's lawyer is pushing hard. If we don't respond, judge will likely grant preliminary division based on current valuations. You'll lose half your shares, worth billions after the announcement. File our own motion, David said. Cite concerns about asset valuation accuracy. Request forensic accounting of all marital finances. Raise questions about Elena's business knowledge and whether she violated confidentiality agreements during her time as CFO. Sarah's eyes widened. That'll start a war. They started it, David said. I'm finishing it, and get me everything on Marcus's new company. Partners, funding sources, client lists, everything. If he's been poaching our employees and using our technology, I want federal investigators involved. David, Sarah said carefully, are you sure this is about protecting the company? Or is this about punishing them? David thought about his father's question. Justice versus revenge. Both, he admitted. Is that wrong? It's human, Sarah said. But be careful. People who seek revenge should dig two graves. People who seek justice should build bulletproof cases. Then let's build something bulletproof. The hearing happened faster than David anticipated. 30 hours after the DOD announcement was moved up, he sat in Judge Patricia Morrison's courtroom, Elena and Gloria Hartman on one side, him and Sarah Kim on the other. Marcus wasn't present. He wasn't legally part of these proceedings yet, though his shadow loomed over everything. Gloria Hartman was exactly as advertised. Mid-50s, steel gray hair, eyes like a predator. She'd broken 9-figure divorce settlements, made powerful men cry. Elena sat beside her, looking confident, victorious already. Your Honor, Gloria began, this is a straightforward dissolution. 7 years of marriage, community property state, 50-50 split. My client simply wants what's legally hers and to move forward with her life. Judge Morrison, a woman in her 60s with a reputation for impatience, looked unimpressed. Nothing about multi-million-dollar divorces is straightforward, Ms. Hartman. Mr. Chen's counsel, I see you filed quite a substantial response. Sarah stood. Your Honor, we're not contesting divorce itself. We're contesting the valuation timeline and raising serious concerns about conflict of interest and potential corporate espionage. Elena's head snapped up. Gloria's eyes narrowed. Explain, the judge said. Mrs. Chen served as CFO of SkyShield Technologies during its formative years. She signed extensive confidentiality agreements regarding business operations, potential contracts, and strategic planning. We have evidence suggesting she may have violated those agreements by sharing privileged information with a third party who is now a direct competitor. That's absurd, Gloria interjected. My client hasn't worked at SkyShield for 4 years. But she's been married to its CEO, Sarah countered, with access to documents, conversations, and information that would be valuable to competitors. Specifically, we have evidence that Marcus Rivera, Mrs. Chen's new partner, has formed a company that directly competes with SkyShield in the defense contracting space, using information he shouldn't have access to. Your Honor, this is a smokescreen, Gloria said sharply. Mr. Chen is simply upset that his wife found happiness elsewhere. He's weaponizing the court system for personal vendetta. Judge Morrison held up a hand. Ms. Kim, what evidence do you have? Sarah presented a tablet. 3 former SkyShield employees, all with security clearances, all departed within months of each other, all now work for Mr. Rivera's new company. Email records show Mrs. Chen communicated with Mr. Rivera extensively during a period when Mr. Chen's company was bidding on classified government contracts. Text messages suggest Mrs. Chen shared details about her husband's schedule, his meetings, even snippets of overheard conversations. Snippets are not corporate espionage, Gloria argued. Perhaps not, Sarah agreed. But timing is interesting. Mr. Rivera's company was incorporated 6 weeks ago. Mr. Chen signed a major contract. She paused for effect. Yesterday morning, Mrs. Chen filed for divorce yesterday afternoon, requesting immediate asset division based on pre-contract valuations. The courtroom went silent. Judge Morrison looked at Elena with new interest. Mrs. Chen, did you know about your husband's contract? Elena's face flushed. I knew he was bidding on something. Everyone knew that. It wasn't secret. The value was, Sarah interjected, and the timeline. Mrs. Chen's lawyer filed for expedited settlement. Why the rush? My client wants closure, Gloria said smoothly. There's nothing suspicious about that. Judge Morrison flipped through documents. Mr. Chen, what's the value of this contract you signed? David stood, his heart hammered, but his voice was steady. $50 billion over 7 years, Your Honor. $15 billion paid immediately upon signing. The contract makes Sky Shield Technologies one of the largest defense contractors in the United States. Elena's face went white. Gloria's pen clattered to the table. The judge's eyebrows rose. When you say immediately, the judge began, the money was transferred to corporate accounts yesterday at 4 p.m., Your Honor. 1 hour after Mrs. Chen served divorce papers requesting asset division based on last quarter's valuation of $8 million for my shareholding. The math hung in the air, brutal and obvious. Elena had walked away from billions, filing for divorce mere hours after her husband had become wealthy beyond imagination. I didn't know, Elena whispered. David, I swear I didn't. But Marcus did, David said coldly. Or suspected. That's why he rushed you through this. That's why his new company just happens to specialize in the exact field where I just won the biggest contract in history. He's been positioning himself to profit off my success, using you as his inside source. This is speculation, Gloria said, but her voice lacked conviction. Is it? Sarah pulled out more documents. Mr. Rivera received a mysterious $500,000 capital injection from an offshore account 6 weeks ago. We're tracking the source, but preliminary investigation suggests it came from a Chinese investment firm with known connections to industrial espionage. The same firm that's been trying to steal American defense technology for years. Elena stood abruptly. That's insane. Marcus wouldn't... Sit down, Mrs. Chen, Judge Morrison said sharply. Ms. Hartman, your client needs to be quiet before she says something that requires me to refer this matter to federal investigators. Gloria leaned over, whispered urgently to Elena. Elena sat, tears streaming down her face. Judge Morrison looked disgusted. This is no longer just a divorce. Ms. Kim, I'm ordering a stay on all asset division pending full investigation of these allegations. Mrs. Chen, you and Mr. Rivera need to retain counsel immediately. And I don't mean divorce counsel. I mean criminal defense attorneys. If even half of what's being alleged is true, you're both facing serious federal charges. Your Honor, Gloria tried. My client is a victim here. If Mr. Rivera deceived her, then she should have been more careful who she chose to trust, the judge said bluntly, especially when leaving a marriage that was apparently about to become extraordinarily lucrative. Mr. Chen, do you wish to pursue criminal charges? David looked at Elena. 7 years of marriage, of shared dreams and late-night conversations and building something together. She'd been there at the beginning, believed in him when investors laughed, encouraged him through failures. Then somewhere along the way, she'd stopped believing. Or maybe she'd calculated that success was too far away, too uncertain, and Marcus offered something immediate, justice versus revenge. I want a full investigation, David said. If laws were broken, charges should follow. If my trust was violated for corporate gain, people should pay consequences. But Elena, he met her eyes, saw fear and regret, and understanding that she'd made a catastrophic error. If you cooperate fully, tell investigators everything Marcus told you, every document he asked about, every conversation he prompted, then I'll consider leniency regarding the divorce settlement. That's more than generous, Judge Morrison said. Mrs. Chen, I strongly suggest you take that offer. Court is adjourned pending investigation. Nobody leaves the state without my permission. The hearing ended in chaos. Gloria hustled Elena out a side door. Reporters who'd gotten wind of something interesting crowded the hallway. Sarah fielded questions while David slipped out the back. His phone rang immediately. Marcus, David answered, curious. What the hell did you just do? Marcus's voice was panicked, angry, afraid. I protected what's mine, David said calmly. What you tried to steal. I didn't steal anything. Elena came to me. She was unhappy. You just took advantage, David interrupted. You pumped her for information about my company, used what you learned to position yourself, then pushed her into divorce at exactly the moment you thought would maximize your gain through her settlement. You can't prove any of that. Actually, Marcus, I can. Text messages, emails, financial records. That mysterious $500,000. Federal investigators are very interested in where it came from. Turns out, when you take money from foreign intelligence services to steal defense technology, that's called treason. The line went silent. Then, quietly, it wasn't supposed to be like this. What was it supposed to be? You steal my wife, steal my tech, profit off my work, and I just accept it? You were never around, Marcus exploded. Elena was lonely. You spent 7 years obsessed with satellites and contracts. She needed someone who saw her, who had time for her. I gave her that. You gave her lies, David said coldly. You used her to get to me. Did you ever actually love her? Or was she always just access? Another long silence. Then Marcus hung up. David stood in the courthouse parking lot, feeling empty despite his victory. Elena had betrayed him, but Marcus had orchestrated it. Both would pay prices, legal and personal. The investigation would uncover everything, and if Marcus had indeed taken foreign money to steal defense technology, he'd spend decades in federal prison. Justice, not revenge. Though at this moment, David couldn't tell the difference. The Pentagon press conference happened at 2 p.m. on a Thursday. Secretary of Defense Raymond Walsh stood at a podium, American flags behind him, announcing that Sky Shield Technologies had been awarded the largest defense contract in a decade for revolutionary satellite defense systems. David stood off to the side, representing his company, fielding questions from reporters about timelines, capabilities, implementation. His phone exploded with messages. Investors, clients, competitors, everyone suddenly wanting a piece of Sky Shield. The company's stock value tripled in 20 minutes. His personal wealth grew exponentially with every passing hour. Somewhere in Seattle, Elena was watching this press conference, understanding exactly what she'd walked away from. Marcus was probably watching too, calculating how much prison time he was facing. That evening, David received a visitor at his office. Elena, alone, no lawyer, no Marcus. She looked smaller somehow, diminished. "Can I come in?" she asked quietly. David nodded, gestured to a chair. They sat across from each other, the desk between them like a chasm. "I'm cooperating with investigators," Elena said, "telling them everything. Marcus, he used me. I see that now. He asked questions that seemed innocent, relationship advice about how to handle your stress, your schedule. He'd bring up your work like he was just being a concerned friend. I didn't realize he was gathering intelligence." "Did you love him?" David asked. The question he'd been avoiding. Elena was quiet for a long moment. "I thought I did. Or maybe I loved the attention. You were gone so much, David. Building something incredible, I know that now. But I was lonely. Marcus made me feel seen. It was intoxicating. So you destroyed our marriage for attention. I destroyed our marriage because I was selfish and stupid and didn't trust that what you were building would actually work." She wiped her eyes. "I gave up on you, on us, and I lost everything." "You lost money," David said. "That's not everything." "I lost you," Elena whispered. "The man I married, who built satellite systems because he believed in protecting people, who stayed up all night perfecting designs, who never quit even when everyone said it was impossible. I lost that person because I stopped believing in him." David felt something crack inside him, some carefully constructed wall. "I lost me too, Elena. Somewhere between the first failed prototype and the final success, I forgot that building something wasn't supposed to cost my marriage. I should have made time. I should have included you more, trusted you with my struggles instead of just my dreams." "We both failed," Elena said. "But what I did with Marcus, that was unforgivable." "Was it?" David considered this. "Or was it just human? You didn't know what he was really doing. You thought you were finding happiness. The investigators say he was working with foreign agents, Chinese intelligence. They wanted your technology. Marcus was going to sell it to them once he had access through me, through the divorce settlement." Her voice broke. "I almost helped him commit treason because I was bored and lonely." David's anger, so carefully maintained, began to dissolve. Marcus was the villain here. Elena was a victim, albeit a willing one, but still manipulated. "What happens now?" Elena asked. Now we get divorced properly, David said gently. I'll make sure you're taken care of. Not billions, but enough to start over. The house, some savings. You helped build Sky Shield in the early days. That counts for something. I don't deserve your kindness. Maybe not, David agreed, but I deserve to not become the kind of person who destroys others for revenge. My parents taught me better than that. Elena nodded, stood to leave. At the door, she paused. For what it's worth, David, I'm proud of you. What you built, it's going to change the world. Protect people. That's who you always were. I'm sorry I forgot that. After she left, David sat in the quiet office, watching the city lights flicker on as evening fell. His phone showed news alerts about Marcus's arrest, federal charges, conspiracy, espionage, attempting to transfer defense technology to foreign agents. The $500,000 had indeed come from a Chinese intelligence front company. Marcus faced 30 years minimum. David felt no satisfaction in this, just emptiness where fury had been. His father called. Saw the news, both news items, the contract and the arrest. I didn't want it to end like this, David admitted. How did you want it to end? I don't know. With me winning, them losing, everything clear and simple. Life is never simple, his father said. But you did the right thing, protected your work, exposed the threat, gave Elena a chance at redemption. That's more than revenge. That's character. It doesn't feel like winning, because winning never feels like we expect. We think it's triumph and satisfaction. Really, it's just exhaustion and hope that the next thing will be better. After hanging up, David pulled up the Sky Shield project files, satellite defense systems that would protect millions of people from hypersonic missiles, technology that would reshape global security, work that actually mattered. He'd lost his wife to betrayal and his best friend to greed, but he'd kept his integrity, built something real, and maybe eventually that would be enough. His phone buzzed, a message from his mother. Proud of you. Come to dinner Sunday. Bring no one. Just you. David smiled despite everything. Just him. Maybe that was the point. He'd spent 7 years building a company, 7 years married to Elena, 20 years friends with Marcus. All of that was gone now, stripped away by ambition and betrayal and secrets. What remained was just David, and maybe that was exactly who he needed to get reacquainted with. He locked his office, headed home to an empty house that would soon belong to someone else. Tomorrow he'd start the process of rebuilding a life, not just a company. He'd figure out who David Chen was when he wasn't defined by his relationships or his work. And somewhere in a federal holding cell, Marcus Rivera was learning that betraying the wrong person didn't just cost friendships, it cost freedom. What David did shocked him, not through cruelty or revenge, but through the simple choice to tell the truth, to let justice run its course, to refuse to be an accomplice in his own destruction. The greatest shock wasn't dramatic, it was moral. David chose character over vengeance, and that choice had changed everything. The $50 billion contract was just money. The real victory was David's soul remaining intact despite every reason to poison it with bitterness. And that ultimately was the shock Marcus never saw coming.